Let's get it. Welcome to the Dear Son Show. We have meaningful conversations about life through the lens of fatherhood. It's for fathers, those with fathers, and the fatherless, so nobody's left out. These are the conversations I want my sons to access as they grow through life, so no topics are off limits. I'm your only host today, D. Johns, but we got a repeat offender in the building. Reggie George, what's good, my brother?
What's up, D? What up, bro?
Man, glad to have you back on the platform. You supported early, so thank you. Number
Yes,
one,
indeed.
very powerful story, and we'll get into that. But, I got to do the life check, man. What's going on with you? How you feeling?
Man, everything is everything, bro. And first of all, let me say I appreciate you for always having me on the platform, bro. It's a big deal. It's a necessary platform, man. So, when you call, I'm gonna come running, bro.
Salute.
But nah, man, life and you know what I'm saying? The good, the bad, and the ugly, man. So I'm gonna take all of it.
Indeed, man. So like I said, you were on the platform early a few times, telling your major story, which we'll catch up on today. Then we had a more of a panel discussion. It was four of us. Then you participated in the men's identity series that I still get, people mentioning stuff about that. And I'm not highlighting it because it's something I put on. It was just something that came together that made a whole lot of sense. People made connections. And it's time to re-up. Time to do it again.
100%.
Different scale. But for the folks that haven't seen, and the audience has grown tremendously since then, which I'm grateful for. God is working some things out. And we pushing the message, nothing compromised. But for those that don't know, haven't seen, but will go back and look at the other episodes, who is Reggie George?
Man, Reggie George is a husband of 24 years, man.
Salute.
A father of two almost 19-year-old twins, man. Serial entrepreneur, man. A creative, ex-athlete, man, family man. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm Reggie George is really founded by family.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my biggest accomplishment in life and having the last name George is just honoring the family aspect of that thing.
It's a big deal, man.
Sense.
It's a big deal. Two twin adults, man. I know what that life is. I think I only had one adult last time you were on, but now I got two and a third approaching. My son
There you go.
is graduating high school this year. So different perspectives at different phases of fatherhood that I want to get into. Definitely want to talk about your process, your evolution through, and I don't even know how to characterize it. I hate calling it a thing because it discredits it, but the seemingly unfortunate set of events that happened to one of your twins that now has become a blessing to many.
100%.
If that's not disrespectful to say it that
Nah,
way.
that's perfect. That's spot on.
Yeah. So if you could just kind of quick, as much as people need, because again, it's been on, and I know how it gets for me listening to the story.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine what it might be for you, but kind of recap how you got to. Well, let's start like F2 Apparel, father figure movement was birthed out of this.
100%.
Let's talk about father figure right quick. So before we get heavy.
Man, the father figure movement, father figure apparel, bro, like you said, came and was birthed out of that traumatic incident. But like you said, bro, what was essentially a curse, man, has become a blessing in that aspect because the movement is taking off, the apparel is taking off, man. And it always is founded in the why. You know what I'm saying? See, that's what's dope about our brand and our mission is that I'm never going to let anything water it down or taint it because I know the why. You know what I'm saying? So for me, bro, as traumatic as the thing and the situation was, man, it's hard for people to comprehend when I say, but I don't think I would have it any other way, bro.
Yeah, I'm trying to process that right now.
Yeah.
Because I have I had 5 children, but I had girls first. God forbid.
God forbid, bro.
God forbid that. Maybe a way to look at it is you were the right one to manage it,
Come on, man.
to shoulder it. Not that you did it on your own. I honestly don't know, even knowing you and having the benefit of here's how I'm getting through it, here's how I got through it. I'm cool.
Yeah, bro. Even from my girls aspect, man, they were the right ones. You know what I'm saying? And see, that's what gives me a lot of time the fuel as a father is to understand that thing might have gone through me and my wife, but it was given to them. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes I look at them still like, man, like how did y'all get through that? You know what I'm saying? Because regardless of how I want to look at it as a father, how my wife wants to look at it as a mother, they had to actually go through that thing. You know, like man, as much as it hurt me, as much as it was traumatic and painful, I wasn't the one going through the brain surgeries. I wasn't the one laying in the hospital. I wasn't the one that had a stroke. You know what I'm saying? So the bigger picture, even as a man and as a father, is that God gifted that to my girls for me to see as well.
That is a tremendously mature way to look at it. I actually, not that I even have a right, but when I think about it, I get angry.
100%. Yeah.
So I'm gonna stop dancing around it because you're not dancing around it, but help people understand what we're actually talking about in as much or as brief as you want to go through it.
Yeah, man. We'll give them the
abridged
Cliff Notes.
Yeah.
We'll give them the Cliff Notes
Okay.
version. You know, we old enough to know what Cliff Notes are.
Indeed.
But nah, man. 2019, man. Of course, my girls, they're 19 now. Kennedy and Camden. 2019, a boy stabbed Camden in the head with a pair of scissors in the cafeteria of the school, essentially almost killing her, you know, puncturing her skull, puncturing her brain, leaving blood clots on her brain. Kennedy was in the cafeteria to watch and witness her sister passing out, bleeding out. That thing caused her to have to go through 2 major brain surgeries, caused her to have a massive stroke during her first brain surgery, man. Of course, you can imagine the mental and psychological damage that it did to her sister, having to watch all that, see all that. But man, she was truly fighting for her life for 6 or 7 days in ICU. For a neurosurgeon to tell us that she was minute to minute, man, is probably one of the most impactful statements I've ever heard in my whole life, because just like you just said about what I was speaking, like I didn't know how to process it. Like, you know, I've heard even in movies and stuff, man, you hear like they day to day or they, you know, but somebody to tell you that your daughter is minute to minute, bro, it'll cause some emotions and side note, you know, for men, that's a thing that I think kind of gets misunderstood, because we are on the other side of things and people see the movement, they see the merch. Somehow, a lot of men assume that I didn't go through the anger and the you know, the man, I'm talking about, I had some dark days, man. You know what I'm saying? But because who I am as a father, who I am as a husband, more importantly, every decision that I made in that particular window was about being there for my old lady and my kids. You know what I'm saying? See, a lot of people will ask, like, Reg, I don't know how you did it, and I would have did this and I would have did that. Like, yeah, I would have said the same thing if you were telling the story.
Right.
But when you're there, nothing dominates your thinking other than, is my family cool?
So you mentioned going through phases. How would you actually describe the phases? Because this is, and that's what is it actually 6 years yet, or coming up on 6 years?
It's coming up on 2019, so it's coming up on
It'd be six if it ain't
6
already.
years in
Yeah,
6 years in May. Yeah.
6 years in May, and let's jump to the good news and jump back. Both of them are thriving.
Man, like again, like thriving is almost an understatement, man. Just because if you and I tell them all the time, man, people get to ask you the God question. Because if they walk in right now, you have to ask which one of y'all was it. And I think sometimes they don't even realize how powerful that is to say which one of y'all had the stroke, which one of y'all had 2 brain surgeries, which one of y'all had to learn how to walk and talk and read and write. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times, bro, that's as far as I have to go in an explanation most times.
Yeah.
Because as twins, you can look at them and you truly have to ask, like, okay, which one of y'all was it?
Yeah. So let's walk through the stages as you recall them, because again, we haven't had this discussion since 22, maybe 2022,
Yeah.
like specifically this conversation. So I know you were in a different place then, you're in a different place now, due to a lot of things. Let's kind of talk through then to now.
It is definitely phases of a thing, and that's where the father figure movement, that's where the father figure apparel came from, because at that particular point, I'm trying to process it as a father. Because when that thing robs you and shatters your protective piece, that's the only, like, I want to process it more as a husband, or I want to process it more as a son, but the only place I can go is like, man, as a father, what do I do in this circumstance?
Yeah.
Should I go hunt the boy down? Should I go hunt his people down? Should I stay here for my kids? Should I, what is it that I should do? Because, and I got one of my partners, man, that always tells me, like, bro, it's a difference from somebody stealing from you versus robbing you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so when you get robbed of a thing, that's a different level of trauma. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I wanted to be able to do something. I wanted to be able to be there and protect her. I wanted to be able to prevent the situation. So that first phase, man, is really just 100% trying to figure out, like, man, what is going on as a father?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Why is my daughter laying in the hospital after some boy done stabbed her with a pair of scissors and I couldn't do nothing?
I think that's that for me, and I'm in no means trying to put myself in your shoes. The fact that it was a boy screams a louder issue. On one hand, on the other hand, because it is a boy, maybe I would feel more determined or justified to do something
Listen,
nasty
bro.
work to him.
Listen, bro. Even now, and this is kind of going into a little bit of the second phase or the third phase or whatever it is. One thing about young men is I don't see them as young men anymore. I see them as just, again, if we had a game or it's hard for me to say if something happened, I'm going to treat this 16-year-old like a 16-year-old.
I get it.
I'm gonna handle you like a grown man. But that's part of the trauma response too, man, is even with their little boyfriends over the years and afterwards, man, I have to purposely make myself understand, like, man, it's a young man.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to purposely make myself process that his intent is not to hurt your baby. He ain't gonna hurt your baby, Reg. He ain't gonna hurt your baby, he ain't gonna, and then, bro, and phase 2, phase 3, for a long time, it was hard to even process how they looked at young men.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I was, as much as we don't want our daughters to be dating and we played a hard role, man, I was relieved when my girl started dealing with boys in that way, because I didn't know how it tainted their view of young men.
Especially that early in life.
Yeah, man. I don't know if you looked at them as just violent or you looked at them as, a threat. If you looked at them as so, and that's another phase, man, is when we got out the hospital, man, we even assumed like, oh man, we get back to normal in life and this, that, and the third. Like, man, bro, that first 6 months out the hospital, bro, was worse than the hospital, because you don't know when you're in the trauma how the trauma has affected you.
Got it.
See, when you in the hospital, you just dealing with the hospital. You just dealing with the rehab. You dealing with the surgeries. You dealing with, but when you get back out and have to deal with life
doesn't care.
Life doesn't care. Life don't care that you've been in the hospital for 3.5 months and all you've heard is machines going off and everything keeping blood pressure, everything keeping this, that, and the third. And you get home and that's a trauma. Like, hold on, man, where the machines at, or where the nurses at, or
Wow.
man, I remember vividly, man, probably the first 3 days, it's impossible not to get up and go in their room 20 times a night, because I'm thinking about the blood pressure. I'm thinking about the heart rate. I'm thinking about all of this stuff that we've been tracking for 3 months that ain't there no more. Like, is my baby cool? Like, is she cool without that stuff? Is she cool without the monitors? Is she cool without even though you do trust the medical professionals in the hospital, they ain't gonna send you home if she not cool. But the trauma response is to try and reassure yourself.
How tough was it to manage you in those moments when you don't necessarily have control over it? You have the reference. You don't necessarily know what your daughter's going through, but you have a version of it. Like, how do you cope is probably a bad, like, how do you get through that?
Man, you just, and that's a great question when it comes to family, man, because you just kind of rally around each other. And, for me, a lot of their strength encouraged me and laid to bed a lot of the questions that I had, a lot of the doubts and a lot of the coping mechanisms, even today. A lot of times, man, especially when Camden first started driving, man, it's been 100 scenarios that, because at the end of the day, man, let's retro back, as well as she doing and is thriving and is, excelling in every area of life. The reality is my baby has permanent brain damage. So you can't take the images away from the CT scans and the MRIs and the hole in her brain and the blood vessels and the stroke and the seizures. You can't just act like, see, for them, as teenagers, it's easy for them to act like it didn't happen because they just want to be normal girls.
Right.
But as parents, and especially as a father, man, you don't want to become overprotective, but it's almost hard not to when you've seen and experienced all that. So for me, to answer your question, man, for me, when they reassure me of a thing, it lays a lot of that to rest.
Gotcha.
Like when Cam knows me just like I know her. So she knows she got to look me in my face and say, Daddy, like, nah, I'm cool. And I'm like, okay, cool. I got you.
So you mentioned overprotected. That was one of the things that I wanted to pry into. Like, how did Did your overprotection ever get to a point where it annoyed her?
Oh man, it annoyed them. Like, bro, like, listen, man, it is hard not to become the helicopter pop.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I said, especially like that first year, man, the first 2 years, man, like, I don't care if it's a birthday party. I don't care if it's the prom. I don't care if it's, both of them like, look, man, daddy, you ain't got to call no more, man. We cool.
Yeah.
If something wrong. And that's the thing again, that has to become a volley between you and them is my girls, if something is fishy, because their PTSD gonna kick in.
Yeah.
If something is fishy, 100% of the time, D, they gonna make the call. So for me, that becomes part of my security in pulling back on being overprotective is because I know my girl's gonna make the
They
call.
gonna reach out. Yeah.
Like, man, it's been times they done went to a party and they like, daddy, listen, man, they got these book bags, they got these boys from other side of town, they letting them in, like, man, come pick us up. And for me, I'm on my way.
I'll take it. How do you, so like I said, I have girls, 3 girls, 2 boys. I had girls first. So the 2 oldest, I mean, they can date. I mean, the oldest one has a child, so she's done more than dating. Clearly. Love my grandbaby, thank God. But I look at every guy as having an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with no other trauma associated with them in life.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, what's the interview process like? Like, I mean, is it Will Smith and Martin and Bad Boy? Like, is it, I'm less aggressive now.
Yeah.
But, certain things, you got to look me in the eye, handshake, speak when you're coming in my house, those basic things, but they have to have a level of care for your baby that's beyond the norm. How do you kind of make sure they understand that?
D, to be honest with it, a lot of times I don't have to, because my girls, man, our relationship is so intertwined on a certain thing that it's certain little youngsters they not even gonna bring around. They not gonna. And then, man, I'm, and this is where the be present, not perfect really takes over. Is that, man, I'm so present and I'm so visible that almost deters a lot of them. Yeah. Like, man, I ain't finna play with them. They daddy always
around,
or he always is in a place where people understand. Like, man, I don't play about my kids. You know what I'm saying? Like when Cam, and again, this is another phase. Like when Cam got back to playing ball. And you know better than anybody, man. She had to wear the protective helmet,
mm-hmm.
which is an anomaly. You know what I'm saying? Which is, I've been around sports my whole life, and I've never seen anybody play basketball with a helmet.
Right.
But if I know that about me, then I have to know that about everybody else that's in the stand.
Right.
So what happens is, man, I strategically will go courtside during the warm up or during the national anthem or right, and let everybody know, like, man, listen, and she thinks I'm talking about basketball. I'm telling her, go hard and make sure you use your jab step. I'm letting everybody else in the place know, like, man,
That's
listen, when she put this helmet on, I don't want no problem.
Yeah.
I done showed y'all 100 times, or even, when she became a starter, I would purposely shoot out some instructions during the tip. Or make her look over there at me, and just so everybody else in the arena know, like, man, listen, I don't want to hear none of that. Zero. But that also speaks to the young people in the building.
Yeah.
Like, man, Mr. George, man, Mr. Reggie don't play about them girls.
Did she have any insecurities getting back to sports, especially with the equipment, the helmet required?
100%, man. And that's one of the disappointments about humanity sometimes, bro, is that People are ignorant, man. And ain't nothing we can do about it. But when it comes to the kids, man, like, we should be able to hone our ignorance in a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are saying things, or people, she would see other coaches. We would have 10-minute delays because they trying to figure out, and we got to go get the paperwork. And I would have to tell them, like, man, why would she be out here with a piece of equipment that we haven't gotten approved?
Yeah.
Like, this is UIL. This has got to get cleared through the district. This got to get cleared through everything. We would have to reassure people, like, man, this thing is safer for your child than it is ours. And it has to be that way, or she can't wear it. And that's the thing. And especially, like, see, a school ball, they're more protected. But, like, on the AAU circuit, man, she got the little social media posts, people kind of sneaking pictures and like, oh, we wearing helmets to hoop, and you know what I'm saying? So we went through one summer, man, where she was super discouraged about putting it on.
Yeah.
But I like, I had to tell her, man, like, that's your cape, that's your superpower.
Yeah. How did she get through? I mean, it sounds like the through line is resilience. That's a better question. How did it change her being, I'd say, this far removed, because she's never removed from the circumstance. But what have you seen in her progress that's like, man, just as a objective, like, human development, what are you seeing in her specifically going through all of that?
Man, it's just overcoming. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, it's inspirational to see how, because think about you and I, bro. Think about how much courage, and I'm trying not to get choked up. Bro, think about how much courage it takes to put a helmet on to play basketball.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, bro, that's just how she approached everything, man. Driving, that's how she approached, everything. Academics, man, and people telling her, like, we're going to have to get these 504 accommodations. You might have to be in special ed. And, like, man, like, bro, she academically thriving better than her sister. Sometimes I had to remind Kennedy, like, man, your sister got brain damage, but, bro, just to see the resilience and the courage to just overcome brain damage, overcome a stroke. Like, I tell her, like, man, I've been around a long time between the shops and athletics, and, like, man, I know a lot of stroke victims, but I only know one that don't have the remnants of a stroke. And that's not just because it's my baby.
It's true.
That's the truth. Like, if, again, the God question says, like, which one of y'all had a stroke? And that's not watering down a stroke.
Yeah.
That's really giving you perspective into how serious a stroke is.
Yeah.
But when you don't know which one of them was paralyzed, like, man, from the top of her head to the bottom of her feet, everything on the right side of her body, bro, was paralyzed. That's eye, mouth, nose, everything. And, man, it takes courage to say I'm gonna bounce back from that.
Yeah. What's the story been for Kennedy? Again, I can only imagine, in a fictitious sense, putting myself in that situation. I only have one sibling. My sister's 5 years older. So having somebody that you done everything in life with, including birth.
Yeah, 100%.
When they see her, they see you. What's been the impact to Kennedy?
Man, it took a huge psychological impact on her, man. She kind of developed an indirect little eating disorder, just because that's how she was coping with things. And bro, the backstory was that Kennedy had a little verbal jawing with this boy's sister the Friday before. So Cam got stabbed on a Monday. Kennedy and the little sister went back and forth verbally on Friday, and Kennedy got the best of her. And that was his form of retaliation, standing up for his sister. So her level of guilt, man, even through therapy, even through counseling, man, that's one of the things for her, or not one of the things, that's the burden that she has had to bear, is dealing with the guilt of, did I initiate this thing? So for her, man, and it took a toll on them a little bit, because when you're that young and you really don't know how to express what you're feeling or what you're thinking, even though you know this my sister, but it did take them maturing to a point where they could have the conversation, and Cam could really express like, I don't blame you for this.
Wow. How do you parent through both of their journeys? And I think this is an opportunity for people that may be going through not necessarily similar, but traumatic experiences. And like, how do you parent? I'm trying to even figure out how to ask you. What are the important factors, moments, key things to look out for as you're managing not just one child, but two children responding to a traumatic event, but it impacting them different? Like what is a parent, what did you as a parent have to be aware of? What did you find was important that you needed to do to get through that?
Man, first of all four of us had to identify how that thing affected us.
How to use your words.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to identify how that thing, because you got to think, not only am I navigating manhood, parenthood, I'm also navigating a marriage, right? And for us as men, us as fathers, now you have to grow your capacity to lead, right? Because it's easier to run from how that thing affected you versus running to how that thing affected you. Because if you don't deal with it, it's going to deal with you, you know? And that's in a marriage, that's as an individual, that's as a man, that's as a woman, that's as a parent.
Yeah.
And a lot of what we had to do, and as the leader, we have to be willing to be uncomfortable enough to say, or make our family uncomfortable enough to say, we got to have these conversations. I have to know, whether it's through therapy, whether it's through counseling, we gonna figure out how this thing affected you and how we deal with those things. Because if not dealing with the thing is going to turn all of us into time bombs. You can't be in a house and you got 4 ticking time bombs walking around. And for Cam, man, it was a lot of misplaced rage. Kennedy, it was the guilt.
Yeah.
For me, it was also some misplaced rage. It was also from a lot of doubt. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, it's tough as a father when you doubt yourself.
Did you have community outside of the house to kind of help you navigate, or was it everything just had to be close to the hip?
Nah, 100%, man. My communities, first of all, my father, my uncles, my close friends, man. You know, even the community that was built indirectly. You know, meeting you and James, and everybody was directly or indirectly rallying around the situation.
Yeah.
And then when you build a community, or when you become part of a community, y'all rally around each other's situation. You know what I'm saying? So even with being on the podcast or having a podcast or speaking at different events, that became, for me as a father, as a man, it became therapeutic to the 10th power.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because one story that I will tell, and Camden really spoke it into life, because we riding home from a game one day, and I'm telling her, like, man, that thing took a lot out of daddy. Like it kind of made me doubt situations. I didn't know if I should have retaliated, or because you don't know when you in a house with all females, you don't know if they looking at you like, man, maybe he should have retaliated.
Right.
You know, like if you watching what's the Sam Jackson movie? Where his baby get molested.
Um,
Man, I can't think of the movie.
It's not Black Snake.
Nah, not Black Snake Moan. I can't think of the movie. But anyway, man, it's one of those situations where you really are doubting whether I should have retaliated, or do they feel some kind of way because I didn't do something.
Yeah.
But Cam tells me, like, daddy, like, I know, like, I feel you, I understand. And I'm like, baby, how you know? And she was like, because I never seen you cry before that.
So that's an interesting segue into how much of the you now differs from the you before this experience.
Yeah, man. And you probably heard me quote 1,000 times, man.
Adversity.
Yeah, man, and, Miles Monroe says, man, adversity introduces a man to himself, bro, because the Reggie that's here today is 100%. And I'm not even gonna say the opposite, but he's 100% different from the Reggie before this. And a lot of times, man, and again, I can only speak from my perspective and my trauma response. I don't know how anybody is the same.
Yeah.
Unless you don't have a relationship with your kids, unless you don't really have a heart for your family, or if you don't have an intimate relationship with God or an intimate relationship with yourself, man, it's impossible for it not to change you. It's impossible for it not to cause you to grow in areas where, because trauma exposes things, man.
Yeah.
Exposes holes, and even in fatherhood, it exposes holes in marriages. It exposes holes in people. But if you put Band-Aids on everything, man, then eventually you'll start to see where you've been infected, or where the wounds haven't healed.
Yeah.
So to answer the question, bro, like, if nothing else, man, my psychological, my spiritual, my outlook on life is completely different.
Yeah. How tough is it, if it is tough at all, to allow your babies to become adults?
Man, I think that's difficult for all of us. But when you throw trauma, and especially, a violent crime,
Yeah.
when you throw that in there, man, and you talking about your daughters, releasing them has become less important. Not releasing them to adulthood, but like, because and let me set it up like this. So for all four of us, it kind of stunted our growth.
Okay.
Because where we should have been kind of releasing them to certain things, it caused us to tighten up on certain things. And now we have this trauma attachment that we all trying to release now. And it's not that the attachment was bad, it's just that the attachment was still a 12 or 13-year-old attachment to 17-year-olds. And vice versa. It wasn't just, even and with my wife and I, man, like, we couldn't do anything without them if they asked, like, let us go with y'all, or like, y'all come on. And what happens is you don't realize, as they grow older, you have to release them to certain things, or you have to release them to dating and driving and doing all the things. But that trauma does make it a little bit more difficult for all parties.
Yeah.
Not just us as parents. Sometimes we have to tell them, like, man, nah, y'all got to do that on your own.
I want to ask you something, and this doesn't make the edit is fine. What did you learn about your wife through all of this?
And I'm sure she learned the same thing about me. But man, I learned how she does or doesn't deal with things. Right. And I've always known that my wife was a workaholic, a busybody. And not to say that derogatory or anything like
nature.
that. But in situations like this, it's almost offensive when you get busy around a thing. For me as a person, I can't see where you're dealing with the thing. Right.
Yep.
And that's okay with everything else, but with the child, and again, we're still talking to the trauma of the thing, because it exposes everything for everybody. You know what I'm saying? And again, she may, say the same thing about me. It exposed. It's kind of like death, or it's kind of like if you get laid off, or if you know what I'm saying? Like that's what's going to reveal who you dealing with, and for us, man, we've had to navigate as a couple how we dealt with that thing.
Yep. And I get that, because I'm one that wants to go off and be my own person and deal with things in the context of just me. And my wife had to slow me down more recently. She's like, no, look at me, because I'm good for responding, knowing I'm not giving it its due attention, because I'm not ready to accept everything that's about to come with
100%.
About to come with this. So
100%. And then as fathers, bro, and this is a good place to talk about us as fathers, is that our children have to be able to see their parents deal with a thing. And especially when it comes to them. See, and that's what I said. Other things, it's okay. It's okay for D to go deal with it and deal with it how he deals with it. But when it comes to how it affects that marriage, how it affects those children, everybody has to be willing to say, I'll be uncomfortable for the sake of what we need to do.
Yeah. Because marriage, and I've said it a couple of times, that to be successful, every version of you has to accept every version of your spouse every time for it to work. And there are times where it doesn't work naturally without a major trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
100%.
and I know what it is to have a marriage full of life events that constant. I think me and my wife are really getting to know each other now because we started as an immediate family, ambitious at work. We moving around, doing this, doing that. Layoffs have happened,
Mm-hmm.
like all of these things. And now where we are in our cycle is my father-in-law has health challenges. And I've seen my mother and my dad deal with that. I haven't dealt with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So trying to be who she needs as she's becoming something different, not by choice,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
is like something I just don't. Something I don't know what I'm doing or what to do in that moment, and I'm trying to be more open to. Is this a listen requirement or is this a solution session?
Nah, bro. And you're speaking to capacity, right?
Yeah.
See, every season should increase your capacity, especially in manhood, fatherhood. Sometimes we get put in boxes where we think education only happens in a classroom. And for us, man, and especially if you truly want to be a leader, if you truly want to be the head of your house and not on no chauvinistic ego
Yeah, I
ego
guess.
trip,
Yeah.
we have to be the ones in our homes, man, who are constantly trying to increase our capacity and evolve in order to let our families be comfortable as they deal with a thing, or as they, just like you're saying with your wife and her father, or our kids and dating or marriage. Or see, it causes us to have to completely increase our capacity to say, you know what, let me help my child over here, let me help my wife over here, let me. And again, man, even biblically, that's when it tells a man to love his wife like Christ loved the church. That means you're laying everything down in order to say, let me see what my wife needs while her father deals with this thing. Let me see what my child needs while she deals with her child. Or let me see what needs to happen after this layoff. Or let me see what needs to happen in my house after my baby gets stabbed. Or let me see that for us, man, is the male and fatherly capacity that has to increase in every season for us.
Said something right there. We start to wind down, man. I think you're perfectly positioned and qualified to talk somebody off the ledge that may be dealing with an offense to their child.
Yeah.
Like, what do you say to? It makes no sense for me to say it because it'd be all fiction, like how I feel having not gone through it. But as somebody that's walked the walk, that's had the feelings, the whole spectrum, and has had the restraint, what do you say to those men?
Man, I give the advice that I give my boys. And I've been coaching AAU for probably 10 seasons now. The thing that saved me from going off the deep end is that we have to read and react. Because once you become just reactionary to a thing, you don't know what the residual effect is. Because, and we've talked about it on the platform before, like I would have been completely vindicated, validated, everything if I would have retaliated on this boy. No man on the planet would have said, like, man, I would have done the same thing. But the residual effect is that my wife and my kids are out here solo dolo. or my baby wakes up and she don't see daddy, or Kennedy is there dealing with the guilt, and she don't have me to lean on. So my biggest piece of advice, man, just like in sports, just like in anything else, man, if you are going through a thing, or you dealing with a thing, or you dealing with that offense, man, read the situation, then react to the situation.
Yep.
You know, because there are so many instances, man, where, and again, I was on the same street where I just wanted to react. But if I couldn't read the room, and at that particular time, it's an ICU room, then what I'm reacting to is the wrong thing.
I think that's sound advice, and it's really interesting because James and I keep a bank of we call it the bank of topics. One of the show episodes is called "Read the Room."
Mm-hmm.
We haven't got to it yet. I think that's important, man. As always, I appreciate your story, the insight into what it's really like. Again, folks, go back and I'll do my best to link, at least mention what other episodes more of the story is on, so they can get more familiar with you. But how can they find Father Figure Apparel?
Man, we Father Figure Apparel on IG. F2apparel.store is the site, man, and the movement is just fatherfiguremovement.com.
Okay. Look like you're doing some cut and sew stuff now.
Man, just we trying to scale, you know, like, and that's the beauty of a thing, is that when you build it and you grow it,
Yeah,
you got to figure out a way to scale it, man. So yeah, we doing some cut and sew, some manufacture stuff, man. So
that's
hopefully,
beyond merch. That was my point. That's beyond merch. I'm still in merch mode. Got ideas, but I can't.
We trying to get more custom, man, and you know, just increase the message by increasing the quality.
Dope. Very dope. For me, it's always like to shout out my wife, Love Keisha J, to find her children's book. Volume 1 in a series, Chocolate Princess, is out. I like to say it's for young women of color, your young scholars, ages 5 to 15. Really good read, really good reviews. My wife is super dope. She makes stuff too. Clothing, jewelry, home sprays. She has so much creativity that she's wasting at her 9 to 5 because of my actions or inactions. So this year I'm trying to bring her home. So like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. Join the membership, if I can get my words right. So there are 3 tiers of membership available. If you feel so inspired, let the Lord lead you. Always support the blacks. We're the blacks. Anything else?
Man, that's it. I appreciate you, bro. Always.
We appreciate you guys. God bless you. Peace.